Welcome to another episode of the Prep Coach Podcast. We are back in Scottish gym with Scotty. Did you see us? Did you see that?
I saw some reels come out.
It feels like New York City.
It does. You saw our setup.
I did see your setup.
You know,
it looked pretty good.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is we set it up that first episode which was 2 episodes ago, and MG's like, "Oh, I'll help you pack it away." He's like, "Nah, just leave it." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, just leave it. It might be,
I said, it looks nice.
looks nice.
Feels
just leave
nice.
it." So when I came in the next week, I was like, "I'll help you set up." He goes, "It's still there." I was like, "So you didn't pack it up?" He's like, "No, everyone loved it. Everyone sat on the couch." I was like,
Therapy couch.
I was like, "Okay."
Is it right near the stairs when you walk up?
Yeah. Is it still there?
No, it's packed
No,
up
you
now.
packed it away
Yeah.
because you knew we'll come back here.
Yeah, it's packed up now. But the couch is still, it's next to the front desk now, so it's there for like people.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's been a game changer, but it definitely feels a little bare in here. We need some greenery.
Yeah, it's like a
I
concrete.
almost stopped
You
at,
need a pot plant
I
behind you.
almost stopped at the florist just next door to yours down there just to like get something, but I wasn't sure if
in here, concrete as far
It's
as
concrete.
the
Oh,
eye.
It's
that's
awesome.
New York City.
Yeah, you bloody walk. Oh god. All right, Scotty, tell us what's been going on. 2 weeks, haven't seen you.
Yeah, I had a little sabbatical.
First week was Goldie, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're up on the Gold Coast, just for a bit of family time, and then just some other bits and pieces, some business stuff, which was good. And then last weekend was obviously Easter, and unfortunately, Jen was pretty unwell and ended up in hospital without going into the details. But it was a very, very bad week. But fortunately, she's okay now. She's
Okay.
home. Her surgery and everything went well, but it was pretty full on, pretty stressful. And
It
then
was school holidays too.
well, it happened in the middle of the night on Easter Sunday, so that wasn't ideal. So the Easter bunny came, and then had to pack him up, get her in the car. I wake the kids up at 2 a.m. It was the worst. I was like, am I going to do it? Am I not? And then I was like, nah, you know what? Easter's a pretty sacred thing, and they're so excited about it.
Yeah.
So
what do you do? What's your Easter bunny? What do you do? How do you?
So I had carrots out, and I got a gnaw into a carrot, which I luckily remembered last minute. And then Easter trail, Easter eggs, up the stairs. Our place is like kind of multi-level.
Yep.
And so from the front door all the way up. So
How do you do a trail? What do you do?
So just little baby eggs
Oh,
all
okay.
the way up the stairs, leading in towards their room, and then going down back down the stairs into the middle level, and then down to the lower level where the kitchen and the rest of the house is, in through there, and then an Easter egg hunt and their bunnies and everything. So when I had to herd them into the car, lucky there was a couple that I had missed that were still out, and when I had clocked them as they were still half asleep, poor kids. It was 2 a.m. And so I'm like, come on guys, go this way, as if not letting them look anywhere.
Don't look at-
Looking at the Easter eggs. And even when we got them home, which was at like whatever time it was, 3:34 in the morning. I was like straight upstairs in bed and same thing. I'm like, oh, there's another one. So I've got my foot like standing there, and I'm like, come on guys, upstairs into
You
bed.
didn't want them to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had to wait for them to go to sleep, and then I had to lay it all out again. So
Oh god.
yeah, so that was pretty full on, and it's been a busy week just because just trying to look after them and look after her. Jen was in hospital for a week, but she's home now. So just trying to juggle between school holidays, which is not ideal. Anyone that's got kids would know school holidays is a very busy time. So they've been in here a lot, but between that and still trying to do my work and do everything else, it's been a bit tricky. So unfortunately, I couldn't do the potty the last week or the last 2 weeks, but I'm sure you guys held it down very nicely.
We try to do a good job. We try to. What do you do for Easter? Is Talia about the Easter bunny yet? Is she into that or no?
My daughter has a chocolate addiction. It only started on Easter Sunday, but I think she had 9 eggs.
Jeez.
First time she's really had chocolate.
Yeah.
And she was seeing them on shelves above shelves. She was climbing on sets of drawers to get one more egg. She fucking lost it, man.
Yeah, loves it. Does she know about the Easter bunny? Like, does she get the concept?
Absolutely
Yeah,
does.
okay.
Yeah, we put like feet marks. So we bought those feet that you stick on the ground, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit of flour with like some.
Yeah.
She lost it. She squeals with excitement. Like, it's got to when they can't regulate and like have that really, so beautiful. It's crazy, man. But I thoroughly enjoyed Easter this year. We went down to Meve's folks, their sister and brother, so Meve's uncle and auntie, they both have farms up there.
Oh, well, okay.
And one of them is pretty big, like there's 10 horses, there's 150 sheep.
Jeez.
and Talia just sits on the tractor. They drive around on the tractor. She gives carrots to all the horses. She feeds the chickens. She just loves it, man.
Oh,
She's a
that's
little
awesome.
farm girl.
Where's the farm?
Inverloch.
Oh, it's in Inverloch. Okay.
So like their house is on the beach,
Yeah,
and then it's about a 7-8 minute drive back inland, and it's freaking awesome, man.
that's awesome. That's so good.
She's a little farm girl.
Yeah, awesome. Now we had the 2 potties together. Did you get a lot of feedback from the last one?
Heaps.
Yeah, because we went through coaching standards. It's pretty much
Heaps.
like what to expect from a coach.
Heaps.
I know some people messaged directly the podcast page, and actually some people said I've made a decision about whether I'm going to continue coaching with certain people. What kind of feedback did you get?
Yeah, most of it was people who didn't really have an understanding about what kind of a minimum standard was, and were pretty disappointed in themselves that they'd let really poor service, poor advice, subpar level of care go on for so long for a fee.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's the nicest way I can put it. It's like,
Yeah.
they're almost, upset at themselves for not seeing the red flags, even though they did see the red flags. And, then going into even a little bit more detail about even some of the comments and feedback around, just asking simple questions and being told things like, stop asking questions, that sort of response.
Wow.
Like really just basic lack of care from people that are known and should know better. You think they should know better.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, man. It's, are people just getting to a point where they, maybe they, this isn't new coaches. This is coaches that have been around for a long time. Like, have you lost your passion? Have you lost your drive? Is your heart not in it anymore? But I think it's really important never to forget that you still have a really important role to play when you think about somebody's psychological health, their physical health. Some examples that I got from people who message are, a year later still dealing with some pretty nasty side effects of, things that were undertaken during the period, whether it was a comp prep phase or even just an off season.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and this is where I think the industry needs to find a way to be able to say standardize, but at least be able to audit quality control, because you are actually dealing with people's health and people's future. And these things can have long-term effects. Like, Scotty, you've seen some stuff, even with, male clients that, people get given advice and the wrong advice without actually understanding what's going on can lead somebody to have physical effects for a long time.
Yeah, it does. I haven't listened to the potty, but
Just so you know, we spoke about you for the first 10 minutes.
On both of those
On
potties?
both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
okay, I'll have to go and have a listen.
Yeah, it was all complimentary. I think one we were talking about him as a father, and one we were talking about him as how handsome he is.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, I'm reading between the lines here, but I'm guessing you're talking about use of pharmacology or potentially
that, and just even like just lack of strategy and planning, even for natural athletes, just no planning. The kind of just always do more, no responses to questions, actually being told not to question so much, no check-ins at all for months, emoji replies at best. Like that sort of service is basically what we were covering. So we went through like a blueprint of like, when you inquire with a coach, here's what we think should happen from start to finish. Here's what you should get along the way. Here's what you should expect.
Yeah.
So we covered all
we did
that.
like minimum, what you should expect at a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also we went through what we do, which maybe is a little bit more than the minimum, but how we said that it probably should be the minimum. Yeah.
And just that sort of feedback from people about what else is out there. To think that like you can charge someone and just not reply more than one sentence or a thumbs up for like 4, 5, 6 weeks. But then at the same token, give that person drug advice. Like if you're giving that out, I'm not saying that if you're not qualified to, you should do that. What I'm saying is if you're giving that out and you're then not checking in to see if they're okay, like if your feedback on what the potential risks are like almost comical in how you deliver the seriousness of it, like to undermine the fact that there are some risks and you laugh it off, like, and then not regularly making sure that athlete's okay to the point where they're actually following you up multiple times to be like, hey, do I need to change anything? Hey, should I be feeling this?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the first red flag. If you're an athlete and that, I feel like we're circling back to what we were talking about 2-3 years ago. This is stuff that
maybe 4 years ago. Yeah, you're spot on.
It kind of, it surprises me and it doesn't that it's still happening, because I think we're in an industry where it's very, very popular for a lot of people that are perhaps, they don't have the education and they don't have the background. They might have done a comp and all of a sudden they're a comp prep coach. And so if you don't have that underpinning knowledge and then you're diving into an area because you can see there's an opportunity here, there's people that want to compete, there's money to be made. And I think that's what draws a lot of people. They like the idea of being an online coach. I get paid really well to do very, very minimal, when in reality, anyone that is successful and runs a successful online coaching business and is a successful practitioner knows that it's not easy work at all. It's actually quite timely. You might have an athlete and think that you have one check-in for that athlete a week. If you're a good coach, and equally, if they're an athlete that wants to improve, you don't just speak to that athlete once a week. The dialogue is ongoing, as it should be, because they're investing in you to make them better. So if you're good at what you do and you do run a successful roster, you're very, very busy. And if anything, you got to put boundaries in place so that, between maybe 6 p.m. for me and 6 a.m., there's no response time. But outside of that, you're there to be there to support your athletes. So I think if you're an athlete and you're not getting those bare minimum things that you guys spoke about, but equally, if you're not getting a check-in or you're getting an emoji, that should be a red flag. And if you're someone that's or even potentially, looking at taking pharmacology, you should be doing your research, whether you're a natural athlete and you're trying to find a new coach, if you're an enhanced athlete or potentially thinking about crossing over. Like over on that side of the fence, it's the wild, wild west. There's so many people that are working outside their scope of practice that really shouldn't be engaging and prescribing, compounds that they don't even know anything about. Like at the moment, peptides are the new fad for a lot of people. And half like I see coaches on Instagram talking about certain compounds, and when I see them, I'm like, none of that stuff that you're talking about is relevant to humans. They might be talking about a compound that hasn't even been tested on humans, hasn't even reached that stage yet. It's used on rats or on rabbits. And it's like, if you want to take that risk and put that in your body, like each to their own, I'm not going to begrudge anyone for doing that. But as a coach, you've got a responsibility and there's a duty of care to your athlete first and foremost. I don't think you should be, telling anyone to take anything that you wouldn't potentially put in your own body, but equally you've got to educate them on taking it. If someone asks me about, I'm thinking about taking creatine, what are the benefits, rather than me saying you should take it because it's a really good supplement. It is a really good supplement. These are the good things for it. These are the benefits of taking it. But equally, if you take it, you might find that you get some bloating. There may be some GI distress in these stages. You can do this and this to help combat that. But you need to educate rather than just prescribe.
Yeah.
And then if you are prescribing, as I said, there's a duty of care. If someone's showing concern, they're not an inconvenience. They're probing you for information. Part about being a good coach, it actually makes our job easier if you spend more time giving them information in the initial phase, because the more educated they are, the better their training and nutritional literacy is, the easier it makes our job longitudinally.
Yeah, totally. Do you think that the reason why coaches are the ones we're talking about, the way they are, is because that's the way they were taught when they were an athlete under a certain coach? Or do you think it's coaches that have been in the industry for so long, they just haven't evolved in their service?
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah, I mean, you only know what you know, but I don't know. Maybe I used to accept that, but I don't accept it. I understand it, but I don't accept it because do better, do more, learn. I'll give you an example, right? So I coach Taylor, who's a doctor at a hospital. So I'm on the emergency. One of the smartest human beings I know. We've just switched her goal recently, right? To focus a little bit more on health. And she's looking at a supplementation protocol. So she flicks it through to me and says, what's your thoughts? Now, I'm not an expert. So I find every paper that I can, every research paper, and at the end of it, we're both like, there's no point taking any of these, let's just stop them all. So it's like, I could have just
given a thumbs up.
Yeah, I could have just done the emoji thumbs up, or I could have said, not my place either, but it's like, let's look at every piece of evidence that exists, and together, collectively, we're like, it's not needed. There's no benefit. So that's an example of like, take the time, to do better. So yeah, maybe that's what you were shown, but surely now, having been around it for long enough, you know that maybe some of the things that you have been doing aren't the most optimal. If I still coach the way I coached 9 years ago, none of my athletes would look the way that they look now, because I've had to learn, evolve, hang around people that are doing great things and learn. So it's only good enough as a reason for a very short period of time. I think it's a combination of also that takes time and effort. And I think there's an element of just lack of pride and laziness, to be honest.
Complacency, maybe.
Laziness.
Yeah. So, you know how you
It
said,
takes time. Like,
yeah, you know how you said like some athletes blame themselves for allowing it to go on for so long. Is it really the athlete's fault? Is it maybe 50-50? Because, you know, unless they listen to our last episode, they don't know how the industry should be. They don't know what is the minimum service, right? There's no information out. They can't Google it. They can't look it up. They don't really know what coaching actually looks like and what you should be getting out of your coach. I know there's some common sense. You should ask a question and get a response, like that kind of stuff. But is it the athlete's fault?
man, if you read my response to 2 or 3 of those athletes, it's like, don't feel bad, because what you did was fully commit to the plan and trust that the person that you were paying to give you the service was doing the right thing by you. So I don't put any fault on the athlete whatsoever. And you know, our sport is so niche. Like, what is there? Fucking 5 bodybuilding books in total of like decent. There's nothing out there. So, you know, what is that athlete supposed to do? And if everybody that they're training with at their gym is also coached by that person, it is the norm, because everybody's doing it. Doesn't mean that it's right. So I don't think any of the onus falls on the athlete. And I think the more people start to listen to podcasts and start to, you know, branch out from an education perspective, speak to athletes from different gyms, meet people at comps who are like, oh, I'm doing this today for this show. I never did. That's how, you know, they start to realize that maybe there are better ways out there. But there wasn't one person who messaged me that didn't have at least a handful of red flags that they were instantly like, okay, now I see them all together. But again, you only, you know, you're in that situation, and sometimes the fear of speaking up or being the one who doesn't do what everybody else is doing, you know, it's like you want the approval of people who probably aren't even relevant to your life, like the approval of strangers. So you don't want to be that one who says something even though deep down you're like, something isn't right here, until you listen to a podcast episode and you're like, fuck, yeah, now it all makes sense.
Yeah. So what do you think they should be doing, those athletes? Do you think they should be speaking to other competitors and see what they get part of their coaching
I
service?
think one of the easiest things is continue to listen to as many, you know, educational pieces, whether it's podcasts, whether it's, you know, jump online, look at some forums, right?
Yeah.
But speaking to people that are in your gym and you're in your community, or people that you're connected with on Instagram that are maybe coached by somebody else, to just see if there's, you know, if there's a red flag that you feel. I'm not just saying go reach out. If you're happy with everything and you're getting a great service, I'm not saying everybody should go reach out and see if there's something better.
Sure.
I'm just saying if there's things that you're concerned about and you're already picking that up internally, speaking to somebody who's, you know, going through the same journey that's maybe coached by somebody else might be that easy starting point.
Yeah. I know we spoke about in the last episode how our coaching has evolved. Do you want to go through maybe how yours has? Like, not only, I know your knowledge has probably gotten better, right? Of course, so just the way it happens, but has maybe the way you conduct yourself in your coaching, the way you actually facilitate coaching, has that changed at all too much?
It would have changed a lot if you go back to the early days. I started prepping people in 2014, 15 was the first time I had a couple of.
Hey, were you doing pre-preps in 2014?
Nah, back in those days.
Well, even back then, like, what were the systems that you used? There's probably
I was probably a lot more controlling in the sense of like every single gram, like it needs to be to the point where I remember when I used to map out. There was no computer. I used to literally, I'd write out on a notepad the rate of loss, what I needed to calculate it. I was very, very like numbers driven. It had to be to the letter, as opposed to, and sometimes that was probably too much, and there wasn't enough human element and understanding the athlete and maybe how to get the best, you know, out of them. But equally, I'd also come from being in that environment, you know, being in the AFL in terms of working in that demographic, and so it was more probably adapting to that sort of landscape. And so I think as time unfolds, you learn more. You start working with different people. It originally was more just guys, and then start working with girls, understanding the way that I would communicate with the guys and being a little bit more direct wasn't always the best way to get the most out of the girls. So you learn a different style of communication in terms of how to get the best out of them when you need to be firm, when you need to show more compassion. And I think that's also part of just maturing and, being a grown up and also evolving as a person. But probably the most is the reflective practice side of things. And I think that's something that I probably took the most away from being in the UK when I did my master's, learning from some of the people that I learned from, and again, being back in professional sport, but learning and being around some of the best practitioners in the world, not just at at a certain club or whatever. The sports science in Europe is on a different level. And so hearing some of those people and even hearing some of the lectures and seminars that I would go to outside of my own university endeavors, listening to them talk. There was a lecturer that James Morton, who's probably like one of the people that I look up to the most as a practitioner. He's a professor at Liverpool John Moores University, and he was talking about reflective practice and the benefits in terms of the process of getting better, and reflecting on in his early days how he learned from the mistakes he made, how he could communicate better. And I don't know why, but that presentation, when I went out to listen to that, it's almost like it just woke something up in me in terms of analyzing, reflecting on everything that I was doing, not just how I was coaching, how I was learning, how I was parenting to my kids, how I was as a partner to Jen, to my friends, to my family, to the point where I would reflect on every single day, journaling, making notes. What did I do today? What unfolded? Was that a good decision? Was it a bad one? And almost just going through that process. And I still do that every day now, sometimes not every day, but weekly, in terms of things that I did well, especially now if I apply that back to bodybuilding at competitions, a result might not have gone the way that I wanted to. Was that because in hindsight, was I too assertive? Did I not pay enough attention? We're running a bodybuilding federation now. I handed a little bit more time over to some of our coaches. Should I have been there through, every single element, basically looking for where are the holes, where are the gaps? Whereas, once upon a time, maybe would have just accepted, maybe it just didn't go my way, or was I being arrogant and thinking, I was right and they just got it wrong, as opposed to where is there an area that I can get better? And I think, and I'm still wired that way now. I think the moment that you think that you know everything, you're basically done. You're part of being a human. The cool thing about what we do is, with whatever our scope of practice is, and even just as a person, is the process of getting better. You've got the ability every day, and that's the view I have. If I can be 0.1% or even 1% better every day, that over time compounds, and that's what makes you better at what you do as an athlete, as a coach, and as a person. So I think all of those things combined make us better. But I think, as cliche as it sounds, you get what you put in. So if you want to be a better practitioner and you feel that, from a coaching standpoint, say that you're a coach and you lack perhaps some of the scientific knowledge that you need, rather than saying, I don't know it, you might not want to go back to university, but you might make a point to say, I'm going to read a research paper every single day, or once a week, I'm going to commit to reading a new paper. I'm going to make a point. It's going to, an area that I lack, I'm going to lean into that. So rather than just, it's in the too hard basket, which most of us are designed to fall into. If something's uncomfortable or it's difficult, we tend to veer away from it, as opposed to, for me, if it's something that's really hard or I think it's challenging, I'll tend to challenge myself the other way and say, I'm going to dive in head first and it'll be a sink or swim. And I think that's how you get better.
Do you have something to say? No, you just...
No, man, you can see me sitting here, I'm leaning forward. No, because honestly, I listen to everything that comes out of his mouth, and the reason why I keep leaning forward is because I'm soaking it all in, because I feel like at the moment, at this level, my career, I'm spending the most time I've ever learning.
Yeah, learning.
Which might shock people to think why you've got all different businesses, and I don't think either of you know this. I started a woodwork course as well.
Did you really?
Last Friday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because
it's awesome, bro.
I'm trying to get outside the box and do more things than I've ever done before from a learning thing, and it's like, what do I love? So I'm building some timber planter boxes at the moment.
Awesome.
It's 4 Friday nights, 4 hours. For that exact reason, is I feel like there's so many things that I am interested in that I don't know, and I want to get better at it. Going back to the coaching thing, I'm reading the most books that I've ever read that are making me cognitively sharper and better at planning and structure, because I feel like at this point in my career, I need to know so much more.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about the moment you feel like you know enough is really the moment when your passion, your desire, and your drive just goes down the fucking toilet, man.
Why do you think you're doing it more so now than what you did back then? Is it because maybe back then you were trying to find your feet and build your business, and you were trying to learn, but also you were trying to get bigger and grow, and now you've kind of in a great position that you're like, I've actually got time now to maybe spend on the learning component.
Well, I had the time back then to do it, and
Yeah.
I didn't. Now I don't have the time, but I'm finding a way to fit it in, and it's just like this overwhelming desire to just be a little bit better. And then once you start going down the rabbit hole of information that's out there, and the one thing that you said you did, which you guys know I've been doing a lot of lately, is like learn something new or read a new book, and the learnings from that book, practice it daily,
Implement it, yeah.
start to actually do it. So now, I'll read something, and then I'll be like, all right, I'm going to do a presentation relevant to bodybuilding on that.
Mm-hmm.
So starting to put out, start to put pieces together that I can then use, that we can use in the next couple of years to educate more people. But if you just read it and do nothing with it, you don't take it in. For me, I'm realizing that with my brain, if I read it and then make something of it instantly and start practicing it every day, it stays with me, and I become way better at it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like I'm enjoying the thrill of the learn,
Yeah.
whereas I didn't have that thrill of learning back then.
I was going to ask you, Scotty, after you finished, did you have anyone mentor you along the way, or were you just more self-taught and then just refine things as you went, learnt based on your mistakes and like that? Or was it a bit of a combination of both? Or
probably not. In business, I've had a mentor that I've coached since I was in my first year at uni, and I see this person every day, but it's more just through being around, seeing how they do things. It taught me a lot about business and property and leasing and things like that, which has been beneficial.
Normie's really smart, isn't it? It is Normie. It is Normie. We fucking love Normie.
But in terms of more so specific to coaching, not really. Up until I went to the UK, I've been pretty public. My supervisor at Middlesex, Dr. Laura Wilson, was and still is a massive influence in terms of she always went above and beyond. She would spend extra time with me in the lab. Again, I was probably the annoying student, but equally, she is probably similar to me, whereas when I have someone that's really enthusiastic and wants to learn, my philosophy is if you're enthusiastic, I'll match it 100%. But as soon as you ask for that feedback or you ask for that and then you fall short and let me down and you just don't turn up or you miss something, then that's it, it's done. And so she went above and beyond and still does. And so, in terms of academic writing, my study, but also pushing me when I'd ask questions, stay back, she had a huge influence on me, especially trying to publish my first paper, stuff like that. So she's probably the biggest one. And then people over there, like, some of the people that I got to work with in the UK, don't have as much to do with them now because I'm not there every single day. But in terms of coaching, it was probably more just me. That's sort of the way that I'm wired with anything. If I'm going to do it, I want to be either all in or not at all. I don't have the ability to just be at like 80 or 90. So it was probably more making mistakes, learning from them. But I think as you get older as a person, you probably learn how to identify when you're making a mistake and also to be able to take criticism. I'm not someone that if you say you didn't do this, I don't want someone to be nice. I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off and tell me what was shit and what was really, really, really bad that needs to be fixed. And I feel like that then fuels me. This is what I need to do. And so I'll, have blinkers on and tunnel vision towards that.
So that's only over the recent couple of years that you've been talking about her, because it's wasn't too long ago. That
2023.
Yeah. So do you think that you would be in a better position or more far along if you had her from the start?
Yeah. If I could go back, the one thing that it's funny, someone asked me this because they were talking about, do you think you need to do a master's? And I was like, I don't think you need to, but if I could go back, again, hindsight's a beautiful thing. I would have, probably the year before I got married, I would have said to Jen, let's go over to the UK, but then I might not have come back. I might have ended up staying over there and working there. But that what I know now, again, what I have learned in the last 3 years, I would say would 10x what I had learned from, finishing your undergrad to getting to that point. But equally, I don't know that there's also that element of, as a person and my level of maturity to go back and then to learn, because there were younger kids, and I say younger kids, they're in their early 20s who were part of my postgraduate program who were in the same classes but were very much do the bare minimum. And I was never do the bare minimum at uni, but I was I was nowhere near as like attention to detail oriented. I want to
course.
squeeze as much as I can, but equally, I moved my whole family on the other side of the world. I was
Yeah.
there
For a
to
reason.
learn and to
Yeah,
get
for a
better.
reason. Yeah, yeah.
So could I have done that, and had I have done that earlier, I think it would have had a profound effect, and it probably would have led to me, doing my doctorate versus, you get towards your late 30s and it's like, oh, do I or don't I? So, but equally, I think it's never too late to learn anything. I don't know if you guys know Brad Schoenfeld.
Yeah.
He went back. A lot of people don't realize he didn't do his PhD till he was like almost 40.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people who, and this is the cool thing. And it's just like with bodybuilding, it's never too late to get on stage.
Yeah.
It's never too late to learn woodwork or, do something else. But, yeah, I think had I gone back, it would have definitely expedited things, and I'd probably be a better and smarter version. But equally, you don't know. Maybe I would have been not mature enough, or maybe I would have been stuck over there and I wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
Yeah. I know you're.
Well, I want to go back to you.
Yeah.
So, go back 10 years, and this might sound old school and crazy to people now, but I promise you 10 years ago were way ahead of what was being put out at that time. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about who or how you came up with this. But I was like, do I say it or do I try and go back through my shit and see if I can find it? But you 10 years ago gave me what size? What's that size? It's not A4. What's half of A4?
It's an A5.
So you gave me a binder,
Yes.
which you had printed, hole punched yourself,
Yes.
and in this A5 binder was my training program.
Yes.
Where you made the lines for where I write all of my stuff.
Yeah.
My nutrition was in there, and I kept it in the glove box. That's how small it was. I kept it in the glove box.
That's why I didn't like that. Yeah.
So you didn't like that, so people could fit in the glove box, and they never forgot to bring it to training.
Yeah.
Like that was. People probably sitting there laughing, like,
You're laughing at you. Yeah.
But that's what you've done. You printed it all so that I could perfectly write 5 weeks of training in at a time, with progressive overload, and where I had to do failure sets. And the amount of time and effort that would have gone into doing that back then, because there were no other systems. So, what made you think back then, or what were you reading or doing to be like, or were you just like, was your engineering brain just like, I need a way to be able to progressively overload these people for the next however? So, but I can't have them forget it. I don't want a shitty piece of paper and they'll lose it. Like, go back and give us 5 minutes of how your brain was ticking over at that time to want to do something like that.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So recently I did a bit of house renters. I had to clean cupboards out and things like that.
Please say you got one.
I found a whole box
of
those folders.
Please say
No, but they were all empty because they were ones if I signed a client on, I'd give them a box. And I had grey ones and pink ones.
Yeah.
Remember, right?
I had the grey one.
The grey one.
Yeah.
And also, you know what I found too, behind the back of the cupboard? I had this massive, we can call it A1, massive whiteboard that had a calendar on it. It was already pre-calendared. And I used to put everyone's check-in days and their shows. It was still filled in from back in I don't know when it was. It was like 2019 or 2018 or whatever it was. So the other day when I got it, I scrubbed it out. I took a photo of it and I scrubbed it out. I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. And all those folders, I just gave them to salvos. Like, what am I going to do with them?
Should have kept one.
Oh no, anyways. I think I got my own one. I got my own personal one.
What were you doing to evolve from, everyone was just giving out a piece of paper or you were building periodized plans by hand and binding them and so you were doing Excel spreadsheets by hand basically.
I was. Yeah. For me, I don't know. That just came naturally common sense. Like people are going to come in to train. They're going to have to fill out their data. And I want to be able to assess their data to make sure they're progressing. Like for me, it was just like simple common sense. But that's based off engineering and all the knowledge I had working in an environment.
Yeah, you had was what we would call the back end plan.
Yeah.
You created a document for it.
Yeah.
A paper document basically.
But that's not because someone told me to do that. That's based off all the other life experience I had before that. Based off being an engineer, working at big companies, working for ANZ, project managing. Like that's just managing someone's project, right? Managing someone's, it just came normal to me. But as I said to you, I never had like a mentor. I think I told you the story was I asked someone if I could shadow them and they just fobbed me off. So then I never bothered. I was like, maybe everyone is like this in the industry. I just never.
This wasn't really around.
It wasn't around. But
in those early stages, there was back then, and you would remember, there was like T Nation. There were bodybuilding. I'm sure you used to read.
To be
forums.
honest, all my knowledge came from used to be websites and articles, forums, and then some people had ebooks. And then there were some podcasts, not many, but then also too is used to be able to buy like Lane Norton's DVD of his prep journey, and then it would all be about him, but then you try to decipher what he did and be like, okay, he did this, his reasoning was that, I've heard this guy over here say that that's the reason why you do that. And you just connect all the dots and find all the commonalities of people's method, and then you try to make your own method. And that's pretty much it. Now you listen to podcasts, we tell everyone the answer to all their questions. There's
most 16-year-old boys had magazines under their bed, not appropriate. He had Ronnie Coleman with the
I found a box of magazines out in the house out, so I've still got all that stuff. But like coaches now, or wanting to become a coach now, is so much easier.
Yeah. So then wind that back to the issue that started this whole conversation, being the whole episode. It's so easy to get good information and make better, safe coaching decisions, which is even more of a reason why it's not justifiable to.
But it's also just as easy to get shit information
as well.
And this is the thing. So back then, you would either learn some of these things through other people who really, really niche, not a lot of content out there, or you would go and study at university. And even then, fat loss wasn't as big back then as what it is now, because back then it was more around managing athletes. Bodybuilding was a really niche sport, and natural bodybuilding wasn't even really a thing. It was like you're an outlier. Like there you would be 25 people at a show, 30 people at a show. They were tiny. It's just ballooned. And so as it's gotten bigger, yes, there's good information out there, but you could follow someone who looks awesome in a bikini or in board shorts, and you're like, they're shredded. They must know what they're talking about. So that's who I'm going to go with, versus you could have someone who might not look like, Mr. Olympia, but they're extremely smart and they know how to get to where you need to get to. So I think that's the key, is trying to decipher what is fact and what's fiction.
And the decipher is the word, because that's what I had to do. You have to decipher. This guy's talking about supplements, and that's your stick, right? That's what he talks about. But no one else is concentrating on that. Everyone else is talking about adherence to nutrition. Like, okay, so I'm going to decipher what's shit and what's real. So you've got to be able to, and now because there's so much more information, you've got to be able to decipher more and sift through what is useful and what's not useful.
But you could probably, I'm sure if you say some of those questions you're talking about, if you're really unsure, you could probably talk to ChatGPT and say, this is where I'm at. I'm a natural athlete. This is the kind of feedback I'm getting from my coach. Should I be concerned about that? I think if you're... one of the easiest things you could probably do is, if you're thinking about putting a compound in your body, you don't know much about it, you could just Google that. There will be research papers on there. And if you can't find anything on it, then that's also probably a good indication that you probably shouldn't be taking it.
Last episode,
that's another thing that I use it for, is like, find me the 10 most relevant papers around this supplement, say ashwagandha for example, and then we'll decipher that. Not decipher it for me, just find me the 10. That's a perfect example.
Look, we spoke about AI in the last episode as well, and about using it to your benefit. And some of it is by using it as a Google to get you
multiple things that are really relevant.
And actually,
not just who pays the most.
And we spoke about that as like, I'll use it if I want to look up a medication that someone's taking or a supplement that someone's asked me about. Like, I'm going to use it. I'm going to Google it. I might as well put it in ChatGPT, and that's going to Google everything for me in one hit. So, we never had that back then, right? We never had any of that back then.
I told him I use it as a scribe.
Yeah.
Because I fucking hate sitting there typing, so I just word it and get it to type things for me and put it in a Word doc.
Yeah. The only thing about ChatGPT, because I have tested it, it doesn't know bodybuilding specific stuff.
No,
it doesn't.
You've got to be really careful.
You've got to be careful,
right? Stuff, the information it will give you is generalized versus if you want something that's more scientific, rather than going ChatGPT, you'd be better off go to somewhere like ResearchGate or Google Scholar, type in what you're looking for.
Yes.
And you'll be able to, a lot of the papers, unless you have a user account and you're research as an academic, you're not going to be able to get access to all of them, but you'll be able to at least get some.
You do need to be careful, because I found ChatGPT can be a bit of a pushover. You can challenge it and it'll fold, right? Like you could say something and it'll give you an answer and be like, hang on a second, that doesn't sound right. Shouldn't it be this? And I'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. So if I never questioned you, I'd just go off on my merry way thinking that was the answer. So sometimes just don't believe what you see all the time. Use some common sense and decipher.
That's why I never ask its opinion. I just ask it for the data, and then I'll decide.
The opinion, yeah.
Because it can say it's fucking amazing. Then you'll be like, actually, but I think because of this, it's not. Oh, it's not.
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, just absolute pushover.
my Talia's fucking harder to win in a battle against. Like,
All right, I think we'll leave it there based on the time.
oh yeah.
Jeez, we're gone. Okay, cool. That was good. Welcome
But
back.
you know, just as an idea for an episode in the future, which I think people would love, is like we'll get like 2 or 3, studies that were done, and talk about what the conclusions were, and then maybe get Scotty to give some insight onto like the things that were great about that study and maybe the things that weren't, to give people a really good perspective as to sometimes it can say a conclusion, but did it really get the full best picture of what it was trying to look at?
Or is it relevant to your situation?
Yeah.
Which is
interpreting scientific literature is it's probably the biggest thing that you learn in a postgraduate program. Like you say someone like Menno Helms, who everyone knows, he posts every day. If everyone went off, oh, he says this based on this study, the amount of times he posts stuff and I'm like, I've read that paper and it doesn't fucking say that at all. You're just picking some...
You could draw that from your bit, yeah.
Some specific stats. So, but if you were to speak about that, but again, he's trying to use the algorithm, he's trying to get hype and attention to where it's going, but you need to be really careful. And Instagram and someone posting about it, unless there's someone that's really, really credible, and even then, if you see something, oh, I'm not sure about that, and sometimes I will see that, and I'll go and look at the paper, and then I'll read it, and I'll be like, okay, what he said was right, but more often than not, I'm like, that's one lens that you could look at it through, but, and then again, just because a study says something doesn't necessarily mean that that is God's grace, that's what you need to do. It means that if they've run a study, everything is if it's a good study, it's very tightly controlled, and it allows for specific variables, but again, bodybuilding is not super always tightly controlled. There's variability, and so we use research and scientific literature to help us devise an intervention, but again, that always needs to be individualized to the person, and again, putting your sort of spin on it. But yeah, we could easily do something like that for sure.
done. All right, welcome back, Scotty. Good to have you back.
Always good to be back.
We'll definitely get some plans in the next one.
Yeah, okay.
I'll bring some.